Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so good afternoon. If you remember, last time we had done this Amdahl's law, and we had also done some a bit of classification. So we said that there are various ways in which you can classify an architecture or a machine. Seen a couple of them, and then I think we were here classification based on instruction encoding. So this is what I plan to cover today. Maybe I'll finish off all of classification today, right? And then we can also classify machines based on where they store their operands and where they store their results, right? If there are any questions, I will take it. Otherwise, I'll move ahead. So okay, yeah. So is there any questions? Okay. So if you remember last time, what were we saying? So there are a couple of things to understand. That if you look at the CPU, right? Right. If you look at the CPU and if you look at memory, so say this is memory, right? So what we assume for memory is that we can assume memory as storing a couple of words. What we assume is memory is storing words, right? So this could be like word I, this could be word I plus one, and so on, right? So this is what we are assuming. So we assume that a memory stores words. So rather than assuming memory storing bits or bytes, this word is comfortable. Why this? We assume this as word. Generally, what happens is the CPU reads a word. So when the CPU reads, it can read a word or write a word. That is a general case, right? And then what happens is there is a bus here. A bus is an interconnect, right? So when the CPU wants to write, so generally what happens is you have something like a register here. You have a register here. So when we say the CPU reads something, a word comes to the register, and when we say the CPU writes, the register goes to the word, and so on. Right? This is what we assume generally. Okay. So you know that for an instruction for executing an instruction, the CPU fetches the instruction from memory, right? And then CPU executes it. Right? So this is popularly also known as the fetch execute cycle. Right? This needs to be done for every instruction. And then some people also talk of this as fetch, decode, and execute, which means the same thing. So when I say a fetch execute, I've assumed that the decode has been absorbed in the execute part, right? So for every instruction, you keep on doing that, right? Now there is one more question we need to answer, that how, or I shouldn't say how, what does memory store? Well, to answer that question, you remember the stored program concept? Right? So you remember the stored program concept, which said that even your instructions would be lying in memory, right? So your instructions would be lying in memory, and the CPU can bring those instructions, decode them here, execute them, and then bring the next one, and so on. So it keeps on doing that. It keeps on doing that. So that is why is that possible? Why it is possible? Because the stored program concept. So you know that. So what does this imply? This implies instructions also reside in memory. Right? So instruction also resides in memory and can occupy less than a word or a word or more than a word. Than a word, depending on its size. Right? So what are we saying? That instructions finally lie in memory, and if you observe, instruction could be occupying half a word. An instruction could be occupying a full word, or it can occupy 2 words, or 3 words, or half a word, depending on the size of the instruction. Right? So depending on the size of the instruction. Right? So we know instruction stored program concept says instructions in memory, and instruction occupies some space according to its size. And the question is, what is the size of an instruction? Well, instruction size depends on what it stores, right? And that is encoded. Right? So what are we saying? Instruction size depends on what the instruction is storing, and then how it is encoded. So then the question is what it stores, right? So what information does it store? If you remember last time we had said, this could be like the operation to be done, the operands, right? The result location, and so on. Some things we had seen last time. So all those information, these information has to be, this is what an instruction actually specifies. So this information has to be encoded, and this is what the has to be stored in memory. So what we will do is, if you understand, so you understand encoding, you understand instructions, its size, right? And it occupies some space in memory, right? You understand all that. So based on this information, we will try to do some abstract classification. So we will treat them as pure machines, although machines could again have a combination of things. So we will take an example, right? So just to understand this point, so we will take an example architecture. Right? So what is this example architecture? We will assume we will assume totally 128 instructions, right? We will assume totally 128 instructions. We will assume a 24-bit memory bus. So we will assume a 24-bit memory bus. So this is the bus I'm talking about, right? So this bus can transfer 24 bits at a time. And for simplification, I'm also assuming a 24-bit memory word. Right? So I'm also assuming. So, okay. So I'm assuming a 24-bit memory word. This implies that one word is transferred. Just a minute. Just a minute. Yeah. So one word is transferred on one bus cycle. And when I say this bus cycle, I mean the memory bus. Memory bus, right? So this is what I'm assuming, right? So I'm assuming an architecture which has 128 instructions. I have a 24-bit memory bus. I have a 24-bit memory word, right? And yeah, so I hope you have copied this. Okay, so what do I want to do? So what do I want to do? I want to talk of how to execute a two operand arithmetic instruction. Okay, this is the problem we are trying to answer, right? So we are trying to say how to execute a two arithmetic operand instruction, right? So now what I will do is I will give you a couple of abstract machines, right? I will give you a couple of abstract machines and see if you appreciate, and then we will make some comments about that, right? So okay, so the first one is called as a 4-address machine. The first one is called as a 4-address machine. Okay, what are the salient points of this machine is there are no CPU registers, right? Right, there are no CPU registers. So essentially what this means is that your instruction references only operands in memory, right? So, okay. So operands and result in memory. Hmm. Okay. So let me tell you how this machine looks like. So maybe I can talk of memory like this. So say this is memory, right? And say this is your CPU. Okay. So to write, just okay, I think it's better. Okay, you have a CPU and you have a memory, and let us say your operand one is somewhere over here. This is operand one, and say the address where it is located is called as operand one address. Similarly, you have something called as operand two. So this is called as operand two address where it is located, right? And okay, maybe I could have something like this. Okay, so this is a result where you have to. So operand one and operand two has to be computed to get a result, right? So I can write this as something like this. So essentially, result is nothing but operand one plus operand two. This is what needs to be performed. So this is what needs to be performed, and then this location could be result address, and then I have somewhere the next instruction, right? And this could be next instruction address. And next instruction address. So okay. So this is what the CPU looks like. And if the CPU doesn't have any register, so what happens is this operand is directly fetched. This operand is also directly fetched, right? And you have an adder within the CPU which can add both of this, and the result can be pushed back like this. So the result can be pushed back like this. So if you see, the CPU contains nothing but an adder in for this particular instruction, and there is some way to fetch these operands from memory from the addresses specified, and so on. And then you have the next instruction also, right? Now, so now what is the question? So the first question is what? So I can pose a question. What does the instruction specify? Or you can say encode. Well, I am not so keen on the different ways of encoding, so I will assume the tightest encoding. I will assume the tightest encoding. So we will not go into the details of whether this encoding is good or bad, but we are just worried about some way to encode it, right? So okay. So what all does the instruction store, right, or specify? Well, if you look at the instruction format, right? If you look at the instruction format, it needs to store uh, it needs to store the operation, which in our particular case is addition, right? So we are assuming that the instruction adds. Then it needs to store operand one address. It needs to store operand two address. It needs to store result address, right? So it needs to store all that. So it needs to store where you will find which operation, where you find the operands, where you have to store the result, and probably the next instruction address, right? So all this needs to be stored. So all this, now we can ask the questions that how many bits will be required to specify this, how many bits to specify this. Okay, can somebody help me? Can somebody guess how many bits do I need to specify the operation? Anybody you can put in the chat? How many bits do I need to specify the operation? Uh, uh, this, how do you get that? Log of the total number of operations which are possible, right? So you get it like that. So, okay, so this is like 7 bits. And how many for this? For operand one address, can some guess this? So,
Sir, what is the size? 24-bit memory address. So I'm just trying to make it. This should also be 24, right? So this is one way to do it, right? So generally, what happens is, yeah. So you can sum it up. You can sum it up. So that would. So if I want, so this is all bits. If I wanted to do it in bytes, if I wanted to do in bytes, so then this would be approximately. So this would be 1 byte, 1 and 3 and 3 and 3 and 3. So that makes this 3 into 4 is 12 plus 1. And do the calculation in bits also. You can do the calculation in bits also, right? Memory. Now the ask you a question. Can somebody guess how many words will I require in memory to store this? Can somebody tell me how many words will be required? It will be 5. Yeah, it will be 5. So 4 complete words. Yeah. So Pulkit and Prabhav and 5 say, yeah, so that's memory, right? And I see the some word, right? So these are words 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Right? You see words like that. So what you will realize is that the operation just 1 byte. 7, this is operand 1 address, this is operand 2 address, this is result address. And this is wasted typically. Yeah. So if so less than a word, so probably it would be wasted. So what do I instruction layout in memory occupies 5 words. Right? So, okay. So this is one observation that I can make. Suppose if I ask you, uh, how many memory? Suppose the question is how many memory accesses to execute an instruction. And generally, whenever I will ask this question and I don't say anything else, this will always imply including the fetch phase, right? Including the fetch phase. So what am I saying? I am saying that every instruction goes through a fetch phase and execute phase, and I want to figure out how many memory accesses are required to execute a single instruction, right? So can somebody help me with that? How many would that be? Anybody? How many memory accesses would you require to execute an instruction? So can somebody guess how many accesses would you require to fetch an instruction? If you want to fetch an instruction from memory to the CPU, how many words should you fetch? Nitin Kumar says 1. Pulkit says 5 for fetch and 3 for executing. So 3 for not for read, 3 for executing. Okay, so 5 words are required for fetching the instruction. Then how many accesses do you require to execute the instruction? Yeah. So I can write it like this. So 5 for instruction fetch plus 2 for operand read and 1 for result write. Right? So these are reads, this is a write, right? So that makes it 5 plus 3 equals 8. Is that fine? Is it fine? Okay, so coming back, so why it is called as a 4 address machine? Well, the reason it is called as a 4 address machine is because it contains 4 address instructions. If you look at this instruction specifies 4 addresses: 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So okay, maybe let me write it down. So observation is called as a 4 address machine because it contains 4 address instructions. So I hope that is fine. Okay, so you observe a couple of things. Machine is very simple. Machine just does memory accesses, doesn't store. So the machine would be slower, and instructions are also fairly wide because you have to store a lot of addresses. So instruction occupies a lot of space in memory also. So instruction occupy a lot of space, and because you have to do a lot of memory accesses, the machine is slower as well. But the machine is simple, right? So just a minute. Okay, so if you understand this, we can take this discussion forward, and I can have something called as a 3 address machine. Well, the argument is very similar The argument is very similar. So this machine is very similar. What has happened is you add a special register PC to the machine, right? So you add a special register called as PC to the machine, and what does it do? PC points to the next instruction to execute. Right? So if I look at CPU, right? If I look at the CPU and I had this memory, I had this memory, so I would have PC here, which should be pointing to the next instruction. So this is next instruction. This is very much like the 4 address machine. The only difference being that now you have added a program counter. Okay, so very quickly, you tell me? Can somebody tell me format? Right? The number of bytes to encode the instruction, right? And the number of memory accesses to execute, right? The number of memory accesses to execute, right? You can tell me the second and the third. So this and this you can tell me. So can somebody tell me how many bytes to encode and how many memory accesses, right? This instruction format, maybe I will give it to you. So this would be like operation, right? Also called as opcode sometimes. So opcode, operand 1 address, operand 2 address, result address. So only this needs to be specified. Yeah. Right. So can somebody tell me? So how many bytes to encode? How many bytes to encode? You Apari Shanti, you want to revise your answer? So how many bytes to encode? Yeah. Okay. Very good. So number of bytes to encode becomes 1 plus 3 into 3. So that becomes 10. And number of memory accesses becomes, okay, so that becomes 4 plus 2 plus 1 becomes 7. Is it fine with everybody? Yeah. 4 for fetching, 2 for read, 1 for write. Very good. So Pulkit has a very good answer, right? So Pulkit has a nice answer, right? So, okay. So what you observe that just by adding a register to the CPU, right? A register to the CPU, your average instruction length becomes smaller. So it occupies less space. So the number of memory accesses also reduce because you have to fetch less for an instruction. So the machine becomes faster. Why it's called as a 3 address machine? Because it contains 3 address instruction. This is a 3 address instruction. And you can take this further. You can have something called as a 2 address machine. 2 address machine. Well, this machine is similar to that. So what is the change that you see here? This is your CPU and say this was memory, right? What this was memory. So you had that PC here, which was pointing to the next instruction, and this was next instruction, and you had operand 1 and you had operand 2, right? You had operand 1 and you had operand 2. Now what you do is you say I will take operand 1 and operand 2, right? And I will compute, but the result
Now I will take and I will overwrite one of the operands, right? So what has happened is, so you overwrite uh, one of the operands. And I hope somebody can guess why are we trying to do that. We are trying to do that because we want to reduce the instruction size. So now if I look at an instruction format, it would be talking of the opcode, you talk of operand 1 address, and you talk of operand 2 address. And this is all you need to specify. I hope people will appreciate. I need not specify any other thing. Why? Because the result probably will go to the same address as operand 2, and the next instruction is actually pointed to by the contents of PC. So there has to be some way to increment the PC, or no, if it is a branch, then you should be able to set its value. But that is another thing. We will see that later on. So again, the same questions. Number of bytes to encode. Bytes to encode. Can somebody help me with that? And number of memory accesses to execute. Accesses to execute the instruction. Can somebody help me with that? Okay. So Pulkit has a question. PC will ultimately read next instruction from memory. So how it is faster? Okay. So okay. Yeah. So I think Pulkit has a question. So the question is PC. So the next instruction where you have to store the get the next instruction is located in PC, right? So the question is, how is this machine faster? Well, this machine is faster because to fetch an instruction you require lesser number of words. Does that answer the question? Otherwise, going to memory and fetching an instruction, everything requires the same amount of time. So the interface between CPU and memory is not getting faster. The number of words that have to be fetched for one particular instruction is getting less. And that you can see from this, right? So, no, earlier that was 13, now it is 10. Does it answer the question, Pulkit?
But sir, ultimately we have to, for example, we have to find next to next instruction, right? It is still stored in memory. How is that
Yes.
passed?
No,
Is
that is
it
not
use?
fast.
Do we
No,
use an extra bus or something?
So what is happening is, I will tell you. So for the current instruction, suppose you are fetching. You're fetching how many words? 4 words, right? So 4 words for an instruction, and then 3 for executing. Then when you go to the next instruction, still you will require to fetch 4 words and 3 for executing, assuming it is the same instruction, a similar instruction, right? If you observe, the earlier machine had 5 memory accesses, right? So that is so this is what I'm trying to say. So for every instruction, because you are storing in lesser number of words, you have to fetch less number of words to decode the instruction, but other things remain the same. Is that fine?
Yes, but still we require to access memory to update the program counter. I mean the PC.
Okay, so probably that is a question I didn't want to answer right now. So the question is, how is program counter updated? Right. So for example, what you can do is you can initially start PC from a value, say 0, right? When you execute one instruction, when you have fetched one instruction, you can increment PC by a value, say 4. This incrementing can happen in the CPU. There is no memory access required for that. And then when you have fetched the other instruction, then you can still increment PC by another 4, and you point to the next instruction, right? So for updating PC, you don't require memory accesses. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. But that means that instructions are stored continuously in memory.
Okay, so
one after the other.
yeah, so if you look at your programs also, the way you write programs, when you execute one instruction followed by the next instruction followed by the third instruction. The only difference is that so this is sometimes also called a straight line execution. When you differ from that is when the instruction itself contains a branch instruction, right? So in that case, when you decode the instruction, right, you realize it is not an arithmetic or something, it is a branch instruction. So here you would have a opcode is a branch, and here there would be a branch address. So only one address would be there, in which case after you have fetched the instruction and you decoded it, this address is populated into the PC, so that the PC now points to wherever you have to do a go to or a jump. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if for a two address machine, how many bytes to encode and how many how many memory accesses to execute? So somebody says 7 bytes to encode, and how many memory accesses? Can somebody help me with this? So 3 plus 2, is that a plus 1? Yeah. Yeah, so he is right. So 3 plus 2 plus 1, that means 6. Very good. So what do you realize? The number of memory accesses are getting lesser. So earlier, I think it was, I don't remember what was it. It was 8. Then it became 7. Then it becomes 6. And you will realize that other things being same, the number of memory accesses decide the speed of an instruction, right? Because memory is slower, right? So you spend some time to go to memory. So if you do lesser memory accesses, you're actually speeding up, and that is why the machine is getting faster. Okay, if I look at a single address machine, the operand result, sorry, I shouldn't say operand. Okay, okay, operand and result stored in an implicit register. Implicit means its address is implicitly known. So for example, what I want to say is something like this. So you have the CPU and say this is memory, right? So say this is operand 1, right? So this is operand 1, right? And okay, you take it like this. Then you have something called as accumulator. Accumulator gives you the second operand. So the second operand comes from the accumulator, the first operand comes from memory, and the result is also stored in the accumulator. You have the PC, which points to next instruction. Next instruction. Okay. Yeah. It's out of focus. Okay. So what is happening? So what is happening is, now what do I realize? One of the operands will come from memory, the other operand will come from a register called as accumulator, and the result will also go to an accumulator. And if I look at the instruction format, the instruction format just specifies operation and it specifies operand 1 address. See this, right? So what I'm saying is you can have an add, something like, add is an opcode, right? So you can have like this. What it means is one of the other operands will come from the accumulator and the result will go to the accumulator, right? So okay, so let me talk of this instruction itself. So if I talk of this, so the question is how many bytes to encode and number of memory accesses. Can somebody help me with this? And what are we assuming? We are assuming that the other operand is somehow loaded in the accumulator. So we will see how to do that. But can somebody help me with this? So how many bytes to encode? Okay, somebody says 4. How many memory accesses? Okay, Pulkit says 2 plus 1. Appari Shanti says 5. Darshan says 4. And 2 plus 1. Yeah, so 2 plus 1, I think it is 2 plus 1 actually. So 2 for fetching the instruction and 1 for executing, which means an operand. So that becomes 3. Right. So I think most people can get that. Right. But there is a catch here. The catch is that we assumed that the second operand was somehow in memory, right? But there has to be some instruction to do that. So what I want to tell you is that there are special instructions to do that. So an equivalent sequence to achieve addition of operand 1 and operand 2. So I want to give you the equivalent sequence of ISA level instructions which will do that addition of operand 1 and operand 2. So let me write it down for you. Excuse me. So I can write it as load operand 2, right? Okay. I can say excuse me. Yeah. So this is the entire sequence. So what does this do? So the convention is whenever we say a load, it means so what does this do? This copies operand 2 from operand 2 address to accumulator. And what does this do? This copies accumulator contents to result address. And this performs the addition, right? So this performs addition of operand 1 address contents to accumulator and store in accumulator as well. Right? Store the result also in accumulator. So this is the equivalent sequence, right? So you can answer this, you can try to answer this question. So how much space to store above sequence, right? You can find this in words, and then you can ask how many memory accesses for entire sequence. So you can try answering these questions, right? So, okay. So maybe I will leave it as an exercise to you. You can do that. And the last kind of machine, so E, D, E, right? So the last kind of machines are what are called as zero address or stack machines, stack based machines. Well, as the name implies, no. Okay, as the name implies, here you have no name registers. You have no name registers, operands and results come from registers simulated as a stack within the CPU. Right. So what I'm saying, you don't have any name registers. So what you do here is you can just see this. Right. So okay, CPU looks like this. So this is the CPU, right? You have this PC here, which is pointing to. So this is memory, right? This is PC is pointing somewhere over here. This is your next instruction, right? And what you do is you have a couple of registers here. You have a couple of registers here, right? And so this is so this behaves like a stack, right? So this behaves like a stack. This is called as the top of the stack. This is called as the second of the stack, right? And you have some instructions which can allow you to put something on the stack. This is called as pushing on the stack. And what really happens is the CPU takes one argument from here, one argument from here. You can do this, and then you can push back onto the stack. Right. So whenever I do an addition, two elements are popped from the stack, and then the result is pushed back onto the stack. Right. So the result is pushed back onto the stack. Right. So okay. So if I want to write the equivalent sequence for the addition of operand 1 and operand 2, right? How do I do it on this machine? Well, I can have something like this. I can say push operand 1 address. I can say push operand 2 address. I can say add, and I can say pop result address. Yeah. Okay, so this is the entire sequence. If you realize this, this is the zero address instruction. You realize this is the zero address instruction. What does it do? It does something like this, right? So the top of the stack is loaded with the top of the stack and the second of the stack, right? So these two are popped, right? These two are popped from the stack, an addition is performed, and the top of the stack is populated. Okay, so what is the time? Yeah. So a couple of things. So it's a zero address machine. Yeah. So it's a zero address machine because it has a zero address instruction. A zero address machine also has certain one address instructions, right? If you see here, whenever I do an addition, there are two elements popped from the stack, right? And so these registers are simulated as a stack. Two elements are popped from the stack, the result computed, you push it back onto the stack. I would like to point out, so these are instructions like push and pop. I think you might be aware of them from your data structures course. I would like to put a word of caution. This stack is a very loose term in the sense has been used many places. So here what I'm trying to say is this stack is a stack of registers within the CPU. Usually you have something called as a stack in main memory also, right? If you remember, you had a register called as SP in some architecture, right? SOS stands for second of stack. SOS means second of stack. TOS means top of the stack. Is that fine? Is it fine, Pulkit? Yeah, right. So top of stack, second of stack, which means the second location. Anyway, so usually when we talk about the stack is an area in memory which is simulated as a stack. There is a register called a SP which points to it. But mind you, this is a stack of registers. This is not memory, right? This is usually supposed to be within the CPU. But again, to confuse life, there are some architectures which actually take this simulation and do it in main memory, right? Which makes it fairly complicated. But you don't worry about it. So whenever you hear of a zero address machine or a stack based machine, you will always assume that there is a stack of registers. So there are a couple of registers within the CPU which are simulated as a stack, and they're within the CPU. Mind you, this stack is not the stack in main memory. There is a stack in main memory which is used for some other purposes, right? So I hope I make this point very clear, right? And then you can answer the same questions. How much space to store the sequence in words, maybe, and how many memory accesses to execute sequence. Yeah, so you can try finding that out. If there are any questions, I will take it, otherwise I will stop. So can I stop? CR, can I stop?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.